Graduating from Loyola University in Chicago, my own alma mater, with a degree in English and marketing, she currently works as an editor for a business intelligence firm in Evanston. She is a member of the Ukrainian American Youth Association and enjoys taking an active role in representing the Ukrainian diaspora through the lively art of traditional folk dance at Hromovitsa Ukrainian Dance Ensemble. Please welcome Solomia Chuyko.
You got to clap for this one, we're holding the phone.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's an incredible honor to be able to stand before you today and speak on the behalf of the powerful generation of young Ukrainians living in the U.S. As we look around here, we find ourselves in the midst of a community unlike any other, a community that eagerly awaits this event each year, because we as Ukrainians know the battles that have been fought to gain our long-awaited independence. I want to share with you my story and how I fit into this larger community. But first, a few words need to be said on the importance of history. The history of Ukraine is a battleground, perennially fought over, endlessly contested. It's been a centuries-long fight for independence, a fight to live a wholesome, righteous life on our dear God-given land. And flipping through the pages of our history, it's an undeniable truth that many of those chapters are plagued with dark and tragic events. Attempts to occupy both eastern and western Ukraine date back to the early centuries. After a failure to retain its independence following the revolution of 1917 through 1921, Ukraine endured yet another major atrocity, and that was Stalin's mass starvation of Ukraine from 1932 through 1933. This was not only a systematic assault on Ukraine, but on the very idea of Ukraine. However, it didn't stop there. Millions of families were left victimized by Stalin's wrath, with my own included. My great-grandparents on my mother's side were left stripped of every single belonging, split up, with my great-grandfather sent to Siberia and great-grandmother sent to Kazakhstan, where they each endured a tragic death. Yaroslav Volodya was imprisoned and later shot to death at the Demyanin Laz na Ivano-Frankivщине, while my great-grandmother Leontina Volodya was left a widow on her own with 3 children. We also cannot forget that the history of Ukraine's independence is tightly interwoven with attempts to liquidate the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church in the early 1940s. Ukrainian Catholics continued to exist underground for decades. My great-grandmother's apartment in Lviv served as one of the many secret gathering places where priests would come to administer sacraments. And this is actually where my own dear parents, Andriy and Oksana Chuyko, received the sacrament of marriage in secret under the authority of the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church. But again, the fight doesn't end there. The events of Euromaidan in 2013 will go down in history as one of the most critical socio-political periods in the history of Ukraine. Today also marks the 105th day of the hunger strike by Ukrainian filmmaker Oleg Sentsov. On the 14th of May, he went on an open-ended hunger strike, protesting the incarceration of 65 Ukrainian political prisoners in Russia and demanding their release. He is a symbol of the fact that even when the state has betrayed you and you're forced to yield to its violence, even then you have a choice, the choice to remain a human being and not to renounce yourself. So why is all of this important? Why is it important to me, to you, and all of the Ukrainians gathered here on this American land? If you look up the definition of the term identity in Merriam-Webster, you'll see that it reads, the distinguishing character or personality of an individual. But one does not arrive at a distinguishing character or a distinguishing personality overnight, nor is it something that happens over the course of weeks or months. Assuming an identity is a process above all else. And even more so as a Ukrainian American, those lines become blurred as to when the process begins and when or if the process really ever ends. And I stress the word process because it was only very recently that I arrived at a genuine understanding of my identity and how it is that my Ukrainian heritage plays a role in this American environment which surrounds me. In 2013, I was lucky enough to attend one of Chicago's most prestigious high schools, St. Ignatius College Prep. In short, most students were of Irish or German ancestry, whose parents had been in the States for multiple generations. Most came from affluent families, never having to wonder how their parents would pay the yearly tuition. It was the kind of peace of mind I never got to feel, coming from an immigrant family whose backs had to break working odd jobs just so I could attend one of Chicago's best. And amidst all of that was a deeply rooted identity crisis. While I wanted to blend in with the rest of my peers and be one of them, I couldn't dodge the questions about my name that nobody could pronounce, or why I couldn't hang out with friends on Friday night because I was busy with Ukrainian dance. It was an odd feeling for years, but it took me a while to realize that at the end of the day, the only person who was making it an issue was myself and nobody else. Since moving to the US at 6 years old, there was no question about whether I wanted to be a part of Romovice Ukrainian dance ensemble. There was no question about whether I wanted to attend Sumoznavstvo on Saturdays or be a part of SUM, the Ukrainian American Youth Association. There was no conversation at all because it was an obligation. The Ukrainian community into which myself, my brother, and my parents moved into was the sole connecting factor we had to our native country. I realize it's a human instinct to hold dear to us what we love. Therefore, I look back on it and I'm able to understand why our parents stressed the importance of belonging to these organizations. With college came a bit more liberty in the sense that you're taught to think for yourself, you're taught to cultivate your own beliefs and opinions, and to me that came as a bit of a shock. There was no longer the obligation of immersing myself in the community, which left me feeling a bit lost. Some of my Ukrainian friends moved out of state for college, losing touch with both their Ukrainian friends and the community to which they used to belong. And I hit a point at which I asked myself if I should do the same. Wouldn't things be easier? And then I started to reflect on all the things that have brought me here, to be able to stand on the stage before you and tell you my story. I thought back to Hromovice's 3-city tour in Spain last summer, where I choked back tears at the end of each performance because I couldn't believe we'd made it this far. I, a Ukrainian born and raised in Lviv, had the opportunity to represent Chicago's diaspora to Spain's Ukrainian diaspora. I thought back to the summer of 2013, where I spent 3 weeks as a SUM council in the Carpathian Mountains. We brought in Sumivci from all over the world. French-speaking Ukrainians, Swedish-speaking Ukrainians, you name it. And all of this introspection made me realize that my Ukrainian heritage, despite the brutality of its history, and despite the instability of its current political situation, has made me the proud Ukrainian American woman that I am today. You don't have to be out there fighting on the battlefield or suffering through a hunger strike to fight for what's important. We do it every single day when we preserve our traditions, when we celebrate our culture, and always, always make it a priority to speak the language that we will one day teach our children. Thank you so much for listening. Slava Ukraini!